Hey, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast, and today we're going to find out if you need a photography mentor. So let's just get into it.
Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast with Raymond Hatfield, the podcast dedicated to interviewing world-class photographers to ask them the questions you want answered. Whether you want to be the world's best wedding photographer, family photographer, pet photographer, or you just want to take better photos of your kids growing up, we will get you to start taking better photos today. Here with you as always, husband, father, home brewer, LA Dodgers fan, and award-winning Indianapolis wedding photographer, Raymond Hatfield.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me this week. I am Raymond, as always, your host, and it's been a rough week, guys. The Dodgers lost. The Dodgers lost the World Series. I took it harder than I probably should. You know, it's been 29 years since we last won the World Series, and I was really excited to. It's been 29 years since we've even been to the World Series, so getting back was really exciting for me, and it was a great series. It was a great matchup, but ultimately, the Astros were just a better team. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Dodgers didn't do anything wrong. I mean, they did, but like I'm not gonna make excuses for the Dodgers. It's the Astros won fair and square. Can't be mad. I'm off to a sad start today in the podcast. But you know what does make me happy is that the holidays are almost here. That's right. Everybody's least favorite holiday, Halloween, is now officially over, which means that we can get rid of those disgusting peeps and look forward to the fall festivities like Thanksgiving and Christmas and whatever other holidays that it is that you and your family celebrate. I went ahead and wrote a blog post for all of you beautiful people out there called 57 Photography Holiday Gift Ideas for 2017. This list has a ton of stuff, from a few cameras to hard drives and storage solutions to beautiful bags to travel supplies. Like, these are all things that I think that just about any photographer would need. And not only that, but it's specific to what sort of photography it is that you do. So if you're a newborn photographer, you're not going to be interested in things that a wedding photographer might need. So I broke it down into different categories. So whether you're, like I said, a newborn photographer, a family photographer, portrait photographer, wedding photographer, travel photographer, or not travel, wedding photographer. What was the list again? Did I just screw all that up? Anyway, chances are, if you're a photographer, you're going to find something on this list that you would love to receive this holiday season. So I want you guys to all check it out. It's great. There's a lot of good things on there. So head over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com, and up at the top, you're going to see a link for photo tips and tricks. And right there, you're going to see the blog post. It's the one that has all the cool new stuff in it. Anyway, I wrote this because I wanted something where you could send, this blog post to loved ones or family, friends, whatever. Anybody who, for me, it's my wife, right? My wife never has any idea what to buy me. And like, the things that I want are pretty specific, right? Like, if I say that I want a new lens for Christmas, I don't want her to buy me a Nikon lens if I shoot on Fuji. I don't want her to buy me a CF card if I shoot, SD cards. So the things that I typically want are very specific. I do a lot of researching, as I'm sure that you all do, most photographers do, on the exact gear that I want. And I know that it would hurt her feelings if she got me something and it was not what I wanted or needed or could even use, and had to return it or something. So this guide is perfect to send on to those loved ones, like your wife or your parents or even children, depending on where you are in your photography journey, just to guarantee that there's going to be something on that list that you're going to want and that you're going to love to receive this holiday season. So again, head over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com, click the link for photo tips and tricks up at the top, and you'll see the blog post right there. Also, I want to know what it is that you are looking for this holiday season to receive. So why don't you go ahead and join the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group. Just go to Facebook. You're already on it anyway, I bet. And then just search up at the top, Beginner Photography Podcast. You'll see the group right there. Just request to join so that I can make sure that you're human and not going to try to sell us anything weird. and I'll let you in. And on top of, letting us know what it is that you're looking forward to this year, you can ask questions about photography, and it's a really helpful group, and I know that you're going to enjoy it. So feel free to do that as well. All right, guys, we are going to get into this episode of the podcast. It's another one with Matt Druin, who is a Atlanta-based wedding destination wedding photographer. I don't know why I just jumbled that up. Anyway, it's a good one because we talk about the idea of having a mentor. Back in the day, people had apprenticeships. They did internships. And I think with photography, how it starts off as a hobby, you can kind of learn on your own, right? So a lot of people don't really take the idea of having a mentor seriously because, maybe you've had a bunch of hobbies in the past and you don't know if you're going to continue with it in the future. So why waste somebody else's time? Or maybe you think, why would somebody want to mentor me? Or maybe you just think that you can get all the information on YouTube. So what's the point of a mentor? And I hope that this podcast changes your mind as it did mine. And you'll hear that in the interview. So I do have to warn you, though, there is a bit of audio problems, I suppose. I'm not sure if there was a poor connection, but the audio quality gets pretty, 1997 cell phone style there for a few minutes. And I apologize, but it comes back quick and it doesn't last for very long. So, okay, guys, let's just go ahead and get on into it.
Sorry, I had to make my tea.
No worries. What's the tea of the evening?
It is green tea with lemon.
Green tea with lemon. Okay.
Yep.
That's fair. Sounds tasty. Do you sample different kinds of tea makers, tea manufacturers, or you just kind of stick with a solid one that you love?
Yeah, I just kind of stick with a solid one. I have 3 different types of tea, but yeah, it's all the same kind. I'm not that huge of a tea. I don't know what you would call those people.
Connoisseur,
I guess, if that's a thing. Just as a pro tip, tea with honey is supposed to be really good for podcasting.
I've always hated tea with honey. So
well, the honey coats your vocal cords, so you have a very sexy sounding, soothing voice.
Right.
And apparently the warmness of the tea is supposed to do something, I don't know. And then you're supposed to avoid any kind of carbonated drinks and stuff because you could burp, I guess. And
no, that makes sense. Every time I make tea, though, with honey in it, the honey kind of it doesn't dissolve into the water like I had hoped. It always
you have to mix it up. I've found a kind of a special technique with it. If you have to heat the water up first, and then you put the honey in, and then I let it just kind of sit at the bottom for a minute while the tea kind of does its tea thing. And then I'll stir it real good, and then let it sit for another minute or so, and then stir it real good, and then it's perfect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
you have to heat the honey up so it becomes more liquidy, I guess.
Right. No, I gotcha. It's funny that you are talking about tea. I had a pretty interesting conversation with the groom of a wedding that I had on Saturday, because he is a home brewer. And so when I showed up to the wedding, he was like, "Hey man, you've been brewing anything good?" And I was like, "Nah, it's been a while." But I told him that it's about time that I brew one of my favorite beers, which is it's a recipe that I've been working on for a long time. It's an Arnold Palmer wheat beer.
Interesting.
So it's obviously
so it has tea
lemonade.
In it?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's made out of wheat, or it's a wheat beer. With just a lot of fresh squeezed lemons and lots of zest in the boil. But I told him that my biggest critique that I have on the beer itself is that there's a very dry taste which comes from the tea itself. So we had a nice long conversation about hard water versus soft water, distilled water versus spring water.
Or different teas.
No, I think the tea is fine because I've made it on its own, and I love the tea.
Are you making it from leaves or bags?
Yeah, no, from leaves. So it's just oolong tea, which I buy from a local store here. But it's a loose leaf, and then I brew it that way. But the problem is definitely the water. But
interesting.
Anyway, so I'm really excited to start brewing that again.
You'll have to start sending me samples.
Well, when your podcast is finally live, then you can talk about it and share it with me.
That's the plan. So that's going to be relatively soon. So supposedly, the person I'm doing this with, her name is Amanda, but she lives here locally, and we're both wedding photographers, but we've been helping each other out the last year, kind of mentoring each other, I guess you could say, on topic with this. But so then I just decided, like, we have a lot of things that we're on the same page about, as far as, business and shooting and stuff like that. But we're also very different people in general, like she's definitely way more liberal and stuff. She's gay, so I'm straight, and we have a lot of really good ideas, and I think with our similarities, but also a lot of our differences and stuff too, to make for interesting conversation. And like one of the first things we'll be bringing up is going to be talking about like gay weddings and that whole kind of thing, because nobody seems to be talking about that, but there's a lot of people interested in maybe trying to get into it, I guess. So I thought, what better person to talk to about than her, and especially when it comes to like vocabulary and stuff like that. People are just, at least straight people, they have no clue, because they have all these different terms and things, and it's like you don't know which one's right, which one's wrong when you're talking to different
not
people.
even what's right and wrong, just what is comfortable and what's not comfortable.
Exactly, and I just think there's a lot of mystery around all that stuff, so that's going to be one of the first things that we actually dive into. And I haven't heard any podcasts.
I have. I've heard. There's one podcast in particular with Heidi Thompson for the. She's been on the. I've interviewed her on the podcast before. Oh, you know that. But on her podcast, the Evolve Your Wedding Business podcast, she had on a guest where that's all that it was about. It was talking about changing the copy on your website to be more inclusive to gay weddings, and it was a really good podcast to listen to.
And I think that's another thing we're talking about. That's one of the hardest things is just breaking into that. It's a very closed off community for good reason, just because of all the persecution essentially that basically they've dealt with, So they're very kind of untrusting. Well, I wouldn't say untrusting, maybe leery, especially because it's like they never know. I mean, all those articles with like people trying to just get a cake, and they get turned down for cakes and stuff. Crazy stuff.
That was here in Indiana, so thank you.
Oh,
yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's
I
like
remember.
there's examples of that all the time though, and so it's like they don't know unless you specifically like kind of say or talk about or showcase that, And so it's hard to get your first one, and it's kind of like a catch-22. But once you do, then it's like it's open season essentially, and that's kind of what happened to me. Like she helped me get my very first one, and then after that, it was they just kind of flood in, like the destination wedding thing. Once they had the first one, it's kind of in.
Well, that's interesting about like so. Obviously, today you kind of let the cat out of the bag that we're talking about like mentorships and mentoring opportunities, I suppose. So why don't you tell me a little bit about like these meetings that you have with, was it Jessica? Amanda? Was that her name?
Yeah, her name's Amanda.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you like tell me about how this like mentor session is working with you and Amanda? How did it all start?
So basically, well, maybe we should kind of define the differences between, say, mentoring, coaching, internships, and things like that, because I think there's a lot of confusion around that, maybe, too.
Sure, go for it.
What do you think? Yeah. You want me to do it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like right then, like, that idea that you had was like, well, let's make sure that we get this straight before we start talking about it. But
yeah, so I guess, okay, as far as mentoring goes, I would say that's like someone that's personally invested in you, and I guess it's typically mutual, like it's mutually beneficial to each person, right?
Right.
And it's typically, I don't think it's really a paid thing, it's just more about helping each other out, kind of like the mastermind group. That's sort of a mentorship in a way, it's not like a one-on-one thing since there's three of us, but it's kind of the same thing.
Right.
But we're always helping each other out and helping each other grow, right? Whereas like coaching is more of a paid thing. So you're paying somebody to like teach you about shooting or about business or whatever the topic would be, and they're typically much further along than you are, in whatever, I guess, subject matter that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then an internship would be also kind of mutually beneficial, but that's more like, I guess, what people would think is an internship, like when you work for somebody and you learn on the job. So it's more hands-on. It's education and teaching and learning and asking questions, but it's all kind of done on the job. And I guess sometimes there's paid internships, but I don't really think that would be. I don't think you would see that so much in photography as you would maybe like if you're trying to break into the stock market. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, I could see it if there's like a studio situation where somebody wants to come in and you have them, do like remedial tasks around the studio or something like that. But
well, that's basically like what my relationship essentially was with Dan when he was my associate photographer for like 5-6 years. I mean, he did a lot of different things. And when he first started out, it basically was kind of an internship. He didn't really know anything. So I was teaching him everything from scratch, from what even went on within the business, how to shoot, like everything. And he learned all of that as we went,
Yeah.
So it was mutually beneficial because obviously it helped me out. I had somebody to do tasks and stuff that I needed, help me shoot and all that sort of thing, but it also helped him out because he was able to learn and grow. And now that he's moved, I mean, he doesn't do it as much, but he's still on his own. He can shoot weddings by himself. He can literally shoot wherever he wants to.
Okay, so at some point it turned from like an internship to a mentorship.
Yeah, it did. I definitely was very heavily invested in him just because we became such good friends.
Right.
And then it was also a paid thing too because he eventually worked for me. But when he first started out, it was all totally for free. And then it moved into kind of like a part-time thing with a lower pay. And then as we went on, I kept raising his pay and stuff. So he essentially became an employee. I mean, on the books, it wasn't an employee though. But
right.
That's essentially what it became. But yeah, it's definitely a mentorship. And even now, he can contact me for anything at any time. I do the same thing with him
because you are like emotionally invested in his growth as well as he is with yours.
Very much so. And like that's when he kind of parted ways and he took a real marketing job and stuff. After he graduated college, I was more excited for him for that because it's a new kind of journey for him. It's something he really wanted to do and explore, and that's awesome. So yeah, I'm definitely still very heavily invested in him. And if he ever comes back here, then we'll kind of restart where we left off,
Right.
But he also kind of lets me book stuff up there, and if he's off on the weekends, so he can second shoot up there.
There you go. Yeah. It's interesting because we'd kind of talked about this earlier, but the mentorship is kind of. I definitely don't want to say lost its value because that's not the words that I'm looking for. It has, but it's gone downhill in terms of the amount of people that you hear saying like, I have a mentor, you know what I mean? But what's interesting is that I find that the people who I listen to who are like high level, I listen to like keynotes by CEOs or like behind the scenes of things like that, and they all have mentors. And yet the people who seem to just be starting out, which don't seem like they have it together, they feel like, I'm just going to go on YouTube and try to, figure out everything on my own, which can be great, right? YouTube, there's a lot of information. But as far as like navigating certain areas, I think that it's important to have like somebody who you can talk to openly about an idea of which direction you want to take, either your business or your photography, whatever it is. I think that it's more important to the beginner than it is. Well, maybe not. I think
it's
really
important on all levels, but I get what you're saying. And I think a huge reason for that is because of social media and Facebook groups. Like how often you go in a Facebook group and like people are just asking all these questions and everybody's giving opinions, but we don't even know if any of those are right, for one.
Right.
Those people don't know those people on any kind of personal level, more than likely. So they can't really give true solid advice because they don't really know anything about them, their business, or anything. So I think maybe that's the reason why a lot of it has been lost. But I think too, I don't know, the people that I see that really have good like mentors and coaches and stuff are very successful photographers.
Yes.
And that you think would make like ring some bells for some people. Like, hey, like these people are super successful, and yet they still have coaches, they still have mentors, and stuff. And like you even mentioned, like these high level CEOs and executives and all these people, they all have coaches and mentors in one aspect of their life or another,
Yeah. Well,
or look at Chase Jarvis. I mean, that guy is an amazing photographer, incredible, multiple businesses, and he still has mentors and coaches. you know?
And it makes sense. I think that having that personal connection with somebody does make a huge difference in the direction and the, how fast you can grow in whatever trade it is. But sometimes I think, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, and I think sometimes it's hard for people to want to find a mentor, partially because of social media. In social media, like on Facebook, you want to try to show off. I don't want to say show off, but like there's a tendency to show that your life is better than what it is, right? You always show the good, you don't really show the bad. So reaching out and asking for a mentor kind of feels like this weakness, right? It's kind of like saying, I need help. Like, who can help me? And then the other thing is like this fear of rejection. Like, but who am I? Like, what do I have to offer to this person who can potentially help me out like so much? I think it's tough, and a lot of times you feel like all these higher level either photographers or business people, they have a lot on their plate. Why would I even think that they have time to
That's a good point. Yeah, no, I fully agree with all of that. And I would say too, finding the right person, whether it's a coach or mentor or anything else, is probably the most important thing.
Right.
And that could be really hard. Like for me, I recently just got a coach, not a business coach, which I've been looking into that too, but an actual like shooting coach.
Oh, like a photography coach?
Yeah, so for photography, for actually shooting. And it's taken me years to find one person, that I felt was a great fit for me.
So how did you find this person? Like, what did you look for?
Well, you probably know him. He's been on the Photo Biz X podcast. Paul Rogers. Are you familiar with him? Yeah. So I got him. Like right now in my photography, as far as like my shooting and stuff goes, I feel like I've been. Yeah. So the last 10 years, I have grown a lot. And I've gone in the direction that I want to go for the last probably 3 years of that, and now I'm to a point where I know where I want to be, but I'm struggling to get there, I guess,
Because it's a bigger leap than you've ever taken before, or because it's in a direction that you've never been before?
I don't know really what it is, honestly. I think it's just like I've never really have invested in workshops and things like that, which I don't necessarily think that's a good or a bad thing.
And he's the one who invested in like this $10,000 workshop.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about that too. But I never have done any of that, So what I know, I sort of kind of learned on my own. But at the beginning I had a coach, Zach Arias. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he's from Atlanta too. And when I first got into photography, I guess he was my very first official. I don't know if it was a coach or a mentor because I didn't really pay him anything.
Did you guys like meet like face to face and?
Sort of, kind of. So the first real connection I've had with him is he used to have this thing called a one light workshop. Yeah. Which I tell everybody to get if you want to learn how to do off-camera lighting. It's probably the best, most simplistic. Anybody can learn it,
that's how I know it.
Yeah, by the end of that video. So I sent him an email, basically saying like I really wanted to do this, but I couldn't afford the full price for it, and if there was any way I can work out like a payment plan or anything like that, because I was just starting. I didn't really have any money, and at the time, him and his wife were like, you know what, dude, just come. Like, don't give us any money, don't do anything. What the only stipulation is that you have to pay it forward at some point, So that was huge for me because I went there and I learned so much about off-camera lighting, and it dramatically changed my business, like literally almost instantly, because I went from not really knowing anything about lighting to be able to shoot in such a way that I don't know, it just looks different. You know what I'm saying? Like there's natural light photographers, and then there's people kind of like me that do a lot of mix of both. Then there's this like really crazy strobist people, but I think it set my work apart from the average person, So I was able to start booking higher end weddings and more weddings because of that, And then over the years, he's helped me a lot with, like pricing jobs out and stuff, especially when I started getting into like editorial work and commercial work and stuff like that. Like I would get these crazy like requests and inquiries from these shoots, and I had no clue. I had no experience dealing with that stuff. And so I would contact him and be like, look, dude, this is what they want. This is what I've offered. And he would come back to me, no, dude, that's ridiculous. That's way too damn cheap. Here's what you should be doing. And even with my original calculations were just like crazy high. And he said, no, that's probably pretty legit. And if you just feel uncomfortable, just go down a little bit lower so you have room to negotiate. And I did that on one job. And I literally was going to quote this job $2,000, and he told me to quote it $16,000.
Oh my goodness.
So that's literally how far off I was. And I ended up booking it for $10,500.
Wow,
so,
that's insane.
That right? Yeah, it's like he was a huge, like, you know, a part of a lot of what my business is and what I've learned, I guess.
Right.
So now
right.
I'm kind of to the point of wanting to do that more with my photography. Like I'm trying to I want more storytelling, I guess, in my work. You know, like there is a lot of storytelling in there, but when I look at people like Paul Rogers, for example, like, dude, his shit is freaking phenomenal.
Well,
you know, and
he has tons of
experience. A lot of
experience.
that his experience. I mean, he's been a photojournalist for like times, and any kind of major thing that you could think about as far as a photojournalist, like he's done it, you know, and won more than enough awards. You know, he's been doing it 20 plus years. I mean, so he has the experience. So that's why I chose him, because I love his work. I followed him probably about 2 years now before I even really considered it, you know, just to really kind of make sure, I guess, you know. So yeah, I'm pretty familiar with all of his stuff, and I finally just decided, hey, I'm gonna reach out and talk to him. And it was actually on total accident I even found out that he did any kind of coaching. I just happened to be a part of like a documentary photography group, you know, and it's pretty much UK based. I mean, tons of UK people in there, which they all seem to have the damn documentary photographers. I don't know if you ever noticed that or not. But
absolutely. I feel like
I don't know what it is going on over there, but they have all the best documentary photographers.
They also have like all the best Fuji X photographers, which is perfect for documentary photography.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on over there, but that I want more storytelling in my work, like more than I'm doing now. You know, like I feel like it's getting there, but not on a level of where he's at. So that's what I'm going to start learning, I guess. Right.
You know, I heard an interesting story the other day from... It was on the Art of Charm podcast. I don't remember the guy's name, but he was one of the first dozen employees at Facebook. And he ended up leaving to start his own company and whatnot. But he was talking about the importance of this exact topic, of having a coach or having a mentor, having somebody to look up to. And it first started, he brought up the story about Leonardo da Vinci, which is arguably like one of the best artists of all time, like because of his, you know, I don't know, like mechanical drawings, right? Like this guy he was just a genius in many aspects of his life, many facets of his life. But when he was starting, apparently he was raised in like a pretty wealthy family. And at the time, like everybody would do apprenticeships, right? That was their version of school, because there wasn't colleges or trade schools. There wasn't that many people around. A lot of people didn't travel that much. So they just did apprenticeships with people who were in the field that they wanted to do. And oftentimes the apprentice would have to pay the master, because that was just their form of school. And parents would gladly pay it because, once again, it was like a college education. You know what I mean? Like it just made sense. Or it would just be a free apprenticeship. They would sweep up and, you know, do whatever around the studio or whatever the office space was. Leonardo da Vinci came to this guy, like the best artist, arguably in the world at the time, right? Very well known, very wealthy by an artist's standpoint, I guess. And he went and said, hey, I'm Leonardo da Vinci. I really want to be your apprentice. And the guy said, I wish that I could remember his name, but he's like, sorry, kid, like I already have enough apprentices, you know, like I don't need anybody to work for me for free or anything like that. And Leonardo da Vinci said, no. Here's the thing. I want to be your apprentice, but you're going to pay me. And this guy thought like, whoa, like who is this kid coming in here telling me this? Like obviously this kid has something in him. He has drive, or there's something there that he really wants this. So this dude, despite having enough apprentices, said, okay, like I'll take a chance on you. And he paid Leonardo da Vinci. He paid to teach Leonardo da Vinci, right? This like no-name kid. So when it came time a few years later that like the Queen had this big painting commissioned, like, hey, I need help making this, you know, this big painting. and the artist couldn't do it, the first kid who he thought of, like, to do this task was Leonardo da Vinci, because this is the kid who he had spirit. Like, he came in and essentially did something that nobody's ever done before. He demanded that, like, he gets paid. Could you imagine going to like Yale? Like, hey, Yale, I would love to attend your school. I know that I don't have a 4.0. I actually don't want to go for law or whatever. And I want you to pay me, right? It sounds crazy. It sounds absolutely crazy. That would never, ever happen. Especially, like, even like a community college, like, let alone an Ivy League school. But because of that, he got, like, not only was he an apprentice, of course, but he got privileges that none of the other apprentices got, just because he had that attitude about him. And I think that that's something that you can see in the very high level CEOs, right? The people who do have outside influence, the people who still have life coaches, fitness coaches, and not just, like, you know, people who they pay, but, like, people who are where they want to be, right? The $1 million CEOs who have $1 billion CEO life coaches, right? Or mentors. That's what they have. Like, what does $1 million CEO have to offer this $1 billion CEO for help, right? Essentially nothing. Like, it's not a financial thing. But whatever it is, like, you can find something. You can find something, whether it just be your attitude, or it be you know, your dedication or your drive of doing something, or maybe you have a skill that this other person doesn't. I'm telling you, like, if somebody came to me right now and was like, hey, Raymond, I really want to learn photography. I think that you're the perfect person to teach me. I love your style. I love, you know, how your clients talk about you. I don't have anything that I can offer you, but I'm really good at, like, marketing, or I'm really good at, like, business. Like, I could do your books for you. I can get you more sales. I'd be like, that's really interesting. Yes, I will absolutely do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, sometimes it's a trade.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Especially with, like, a mentorship type thing, or an apprenticeship, you know, or something. I don't know. I think that's kind of really lost, I think, in general. Like, it's funny you bring that up, because I literally just listened to a podcast on the history of Leonardo.
Oh, really?
Like 3 days ago. Yes,
That's
I knew
hilarious.
exactly what you're talking about.
How strange. How strange is that?
But yeah, they actually developed a really close, like, relationship.
Right.
Yeah, over the years and years and years. But there again, Leonardo literally was a genius. Like,
sure.
in
I
his
mean,
own
yeah,
way.
of course he was. But, and what he did, essentially, like, you know, was a life hack. You know, you could call it a life hack. But my point being is that I think everybody has some sort of value that they can provide somebody else,
yeah, fully.
if they are where they want to be. You just have to figure out what that is. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, like, I know what all the answers are, because I don't have a coach. I don't have a mentor. You know what I mean? I have people that I look up to, and I have people that I see on social media that I follow closely, because I enjoy what it is that they're saying, and what it is that they're saying, you know, relates to me, and it helps me, even though it's not personalized information. You know what I mean? Would I love to have somebody who I could reach out to at, like, you know, 2:00 in the morning, when I'm just fucking dead tired of editing, and I'm just, like, getting these emails from clients like, hey, actually, you know, this is happening or that's happening. Yeah, I would love to. You know, I would love to have somebody like that. But I don't. So I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody, like, you know, what you're doing is wrong. You definitely need to have somebody who you can reach out to. But my point is that there's always somebody higher than you. So maybe your mentor shouldn't be the person who's at the top. Maybe it should. Maybe you should go after that person who's at the top. But maybe you should just go for the person one rung above you, or two rungs above you.
Sure. Or you can even maybe on the same level, like, you know, like my friend Amanda, you know, it's like we're about the same as far as, you know, like, literally everything in our business, our pricing, kind of our style of shooting, all that stuff. She has
a different level of expertise, or a different focus of expertise.
Maybe, yeah, and we both have our strong suits, you know what I'm saying? So it helps out, and it's just good to be able to bounce ideas off each other and things like that. But everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses, you know? Like I said, we are very similar as far as, you know, the personality and everything goes.
Yeah.
But there's also things that she's going to be better at than I am, and vice versa, you know?
So how would you how would you classify that differently than, like, a I don't know, for lack of a better term, a friendship?
Well, I don't think, for us in that situation, it's really not a whole lot of difference because we are actually really good friends. Um, but yeah, I don't know if a mentor per se necessarily has to be a friend, you know? Um,
I guess what I'm asking is like, do you think people could go out and just become friends with other photographers? Or do you think that
what,
there should be some sort of like agreement, like, hey, I need help like in this aspect, or
I
how
don't
could I
know if it
rephrase
needs
this?
to be like that. It almost seems like a business deal. Maybe it can just be a little bit more organic, which is kind of how like what we have done for each other has become.
That's
Like we
true.
started, we actually met at a workshop, and then we just kind of started talking and stuff through Facebook and whatnot, and then our relationship just kind of grew. I mean, we would always keep helping each other out with business stuff,
Yeah.
or whatever, and then we started kind of hanging out a little bit here and there, and so the friendship kind of naturally progressed with, I guess, the mentorship aspect of it.
So how would you see a mentor relationship going? Would it be the same, or would they be giving more on their part, or how are you providing value to them?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess for a mentorship, it's usually kind of mutually beneficial to each other. So I guess you just have to work whatever that mutual benefit would be.
So it could
And
be
like you
money,
said,
it could be skill set. Like you could just have a different skill set and help them out.
yeah, I mean, literally, it could be anything, I think, where, I mean, like, obviously, like, coaching, you're just literally paying money to somebody for information and help, you know? But I don't know, it's, like, photography itself is a craft, and, like, you've already mentioned, like, back in the day, and not just, like, in the Renaissance period, but over the years, like, the craft has been taught through an apprenticeship.
Yes.
Like even look now, like say at things like plumbing, like yeah, you can go to school for plumbing, but then you also do an apprenticeship, like where
Right.
you're hands on the job. And I think that's really been lost a lot in photography. It's something I think that people should look into for
Right.
sure. And like when I first started, like I looked for, I guess, mentors and internships and stuff. And this was like 7 years ago, and people just weren't very open to helping anybody out because everybody was seen as competition, where I think now that dynamic has changed a lot, especially with as much education that's available, like podcasts and YouTube videos, and everybody is teaching and helping. And at the end of the day, there's really no secrets in business or photography. It's
Right.
all been done before. Art in general, everything has been done, and now it's just being done differently because somebody's unique, right?
Sure.
So I never really got why things were so like the way they were,
Well, I
But
think
I think
photography was unique, not unique, but I think that it was different because it's like it's an you can be like an individual, you know what I mean? Like you're not running a giant company. So it's like if you feel
sure,
like you've figured out how to get clients, sometimes it's hard. Like even though you only have to book 25 weddings a year, you only have to convince 25 people to pay you some money throughout the year. You know what I mean? That doesn't seem very hard, but as you and I both know, it's more challenging than that. So I could see how if you're running behind on bookings or not knowing if next year is going to be a good year, you're not going to want to share your secrets, or information rather, not secrets, because you're going to be in fear that other photographer is going to be one more person who could potentially take one of those 25 people
yeah,
away from
and
you.
I agree. Like, and you can look at it that way, but like me personally, I don't look at it that way.
Sure, yeah, no,
Um,
neither do I.
and yeah, so I just feel like, what is it saying that goes like, all boats rise with the tide or some shit? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the more people I help out, the more it's going to help me out in general. That's paid off. Looking at things that way has definitely paid off. But it's just like back in the day, like with painters. Like painting was taught like from master to student,
Yeah.
and it kind of progressed. Back in the day, even with film photography, that's how it was done. Like people didn't go out to Best Buy and buy a film camera, and next day they open up a business.
Sure, yeah.
That didn't happen. You
Yeah.
would find somebody that did photography professionally, and then you would essentially do an apprenticeship with them.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that a lot of that is lost, but I think it's kind of like sending snail mail nowadays. Like it could be hugely beneficial, and not as many people are doing it. So it might be easier to find like an internship or something, you know?
Okay, so you know what? Let's wrap this thing up by telling people how. Let's give them some homework. What do you think? What do you think people should do?
Well, I guess find an internship or a mentor, or I guess realize where you're struggling at and find somebody that's really good at that that you think is going to be a really good fit for you, and then you gotta start contacting people, you know, and being humble about it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I'm gonna do this homework. I'm gonna figure out. Well, I already know where I suck at in terms of my, I don't know, my business, my life. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to find somebody who's much better than I am at that. Which again isn't. Here's the thing: is that I don't think that it's a sign of weakness. It's playing to your strengths. It's like,
Absolutely.
I know that I'm good at this thing, and I need help at this thing that I suck at. I'm not going to waste my time, guessing and checking something that I could be completely wrong at. So why don't I just take a shortcut and go straight to the source?
I agree.
So
100%.
All right, cool. Well, Matt, I think that we talked a good amount about mentors.
I would say one last thing.
Yeah.
Like, definitely don't feel bad if you get turned down.
Yeah, I can see that coming in my future. Yeah. I can see that coming in my future. So what should we do if we get turned down? What if we get that email that's like, no?
Well, I mean, obviously you could reach out to other people, or you can kind of keep, massaging that and building that relationship with that one person,
Would you recommend trying to become friends with that person before asking?
Yeah, why not? Especially with social media. I mean, it's like if you're reaching out to somebody for, say, a mentorship or coaching or whatever it would be, and you're not following them on social media, for example, like that's an easy way to get invested and start getting on people's radars,
Right.
Especially if you're trying to reach out to somebody that's like really well known, really busy, like the Paul Rogers or Zach Arias or all these other people. Like Zach, for example, he had no reason to help me with anything,
Right, exactly.
But I constantly would follow him and like just tweet at him, and I always tried to be present, to where it got to the point where I was going to birthday parties,
But like his birthday party?
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. That's so cool. That's funny. I was just watching his Instagram story yesterday of I guess he was shooting like some like cosmetics or some sort of like home decor or something like that.
Yeah, like the product photography stuff.
Yeah, and I was like, man, this guy has a lot of great info. That's cool. Sometimes you just
and that's really funny because most people don't even know he does that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, if you go to his website and stuff, it's not like he advertises like product photography. So most people don't even know that he really does that. But he does quite a bit of product photography. That's helped his business. I mean, like Oshkosh, he's been doing that for years and years and years.
Oh, well, that's cool. All right, well, cool. So, I think that we've nailed this episode, though. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. Maybe not to me because I've once again never found a mentor or searched for one, I guess. But I mean, if you have any questions, we would love to help out. Matt is very active in the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group, which you can find through just searching Facebook, I believe. I don't think that you need like a special link or anything. So if you want to join, okay, there you go. If you want to join, just go ahead and search Facebook for Beginner Photography Podcast, and you should find the group right there. And you just got to answer 2 simple questions so that I can make sure that you're a human and that you're not going to try to sell Ray-Bans or Wayfarers or anything within the group. And then you're going to be in
SEO.
Yeah, exactly. Into the group, and we'd love to keep chatting with you there. So, Matt, this was a great episode, man. We should do this again sometime.
I'm always available.
Good. I'm gonna ring you at 2 a.m. now and just start talking about some BS. We'll see.
It depends on what day it is.
Okay. All right, man. Well, I will talk to you later.
All right, dude.
All right, later.
Bye.
So what was your takeaway from this episode? Are you going to go out there and try to find yourself a mentor? Are you going to try to find somebody who can help you along this journey? One thing that we didn't really talk about is that, once you get a little more advanced or you decide to, for this thing to become a business, if that's, what it is that you want to do, you don't have to go after a photographer to be a mentor. I would say find somebody who's really good at your weaknesses, right? For me, it's it's marketing, it's sales. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I can pretty much do it, but to have somebody who knows what they're doing would relieve like so much stress, from things that are just unknown for me. Is that I would go after somebody like that, maybe somebody who's just really good at marketing, so that I could ask them questions, as their mind is going to think differently than as mine would as a photographer. They might know my strengths. But if you just want to use photography as a hobby, I would say reach out to other photographers, right? Maybe even local photographers if you want, and just let them know, like, hey man, I have no ambitions of, being a business, but I really love photography, and I really like your style of photography. That's important. Find somebody whose style it is that you like. Don't just find a photographer because they're a photographer. Find somebody who you really think that their style matches something that you would like to emulate one day, and then just go from there. So I want to know if you are going to actually reach out to a mentor, if you're going to email them. I want to know what it is that you're emailing them, or calling them, chatting with them, whatever it is. And I want to know about it in the Beginner Photography Podcast Facebook group, because I want to know how it goes. I want to keep up with all of you and your pretty little faces. So again, you know how to join. Just open up Facebook, or if you're already in Facebook, just search for Beginner Photography Podcast, and the group should show up right away. And that's it. All right, guys, now that we're done, I'm going to go back to crying because the Dodgers still... All right, guys, that is it for today. I hope that you have a great week. I know personally I'm going to go back to crying because every time I think about those Dodgers, I just want to break down inside. All right, guys, that's it. That is all that I have for today. Hope that you have a good week. I know that I won't. I will be crying every time that I think about the Dodgers' loss this past week. But I want you guys to get out there. I want you guys to shoot. I want you guys to have fun. That's important. And I want you guys to be safe. Be sure to share those photos in the Facebook group. I can't wait to see them. Guys, I will see you next week. Love ya.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Beginner Photography Podcast. Be sure to join the conversations on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want any links or resources we talked about in today's episode, check out the show notes at beginnerphotographypodcast.com. See you again next week.